Well, good morning, everyone. How's everyone feeling today?
Good.
Let me get a woohoo. Okay, I think you guys need a little bit of coffee, but you guys may be a little bit too young for that. Good morning. My name is Diana Cordero da Silva. I am a doctor of pharmacy, also known as a pharmacist out there. So today I'm gonna walk you through my journey that led me to where I am today, okay? So it's gonna be a little bit about me, and I promise, and then we'll get to pharmacy, but I want you to understand my journey. So I'm gonna talk about a little bit where all of this happened. High school, that was my actual roots that led me to the love for science. We're gonna then move to undergraduate studies. After college, more summer internships, graduate school, and community outreach, because that is definitely very, very important. And then, you thought I was done of school? No, I did some more, and I actually did a postgraduate year, also known as a PGY1. So I'm gonna try to summarize all of my schooling in about 10 minutes maybe, but it basically leads to how many years I actually had to end up to school. But I love my profession, so I hope you guys get to enjoy it as well. Next slide, please. Well, a little bit about me. I was born and raised in the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. Show of hands who have been able to go to Puerto Rico. Beautiful beaches, the most important part, the food. I hope you guys had a little bit of mofongo when you visit. And if you have not been there, put it in your bucket list because it's definitely a great island to visit. So I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, lived there for approximately 14 years of my life. Had amazing group of friends, all of my family was there. And then my mom and dad come one day home and say, Diana, we need to talk. And there I was like, uh-oh, what did I do wrong? They're like, Diana, we are moving to the States. So in Puerto Rico, we actually graduate in 9th grade. So I went to a new school, 7th and 8th grade. And then I'm not able to get to graduate with my friends in 9th grade. Imagine how I felt. I felt very sad. I did not want to leave my country. I had to leave a country where I was familiar with everyone. My family was there, my support, my friends. So long story short, I moved to Florida, to West Palm Beach, and guess what? I'm coming into 9th grade. I don't know anyone there. A school of almost 800 students just in 9th grade alone. I felt very alone, right? So I've always had a love for soccer. So my mom decided me to go and play soccer. She enrolled me in a soccer camp. That way I can start meeting new people and find my community. So that actually brought this journey a little bit easier. And with time, I talked with the wall, I talked with the ants, I talked with everyone. Making friends was not so hard, but the language barrier was definitely something that I had to struggle with and move on. Funny story, they knew me as the thingy because I used to forget the words in English, and I would just say, you know, the thingy, the thingy. So all of the people that I've met during high school gave me that nickname. I was the thingy girl because sometimes, you know, you just forget. My brain is thinking in Spanish and then I have to translate it in English, but that didn't stop me, right? So that was part of a little bit about me. Next slide. Now I'm gonna go ahead and jump into high school, what challenges and what achievements I was able to conquer. So like I said, soccer was my passion. I actually, excuse me, okay. That remind me, I'm not gonna go that back far. I actually started playing for school. I started as the junior varsity, then move on to the varsity team. I also played recreational outside in the community and also travel. I got to play and move across the country in order to be able to play soccer. So I thought soccer was my thing. I'm gonna be, you know, the next Hope Solo. I don't know if you guys may be too little to know who the best goalie for the U.S. national team was, but this is Hope Solo, a little bit of history. I got to meet her in one of her games when she was playing for the U.S. team. So I thought this was gonna let me to what? To college. Well, in about approximately middle, I wanna say mid into my junior year, I got injured. I got slide tackled by one of my colleagues that used to play travel with me, and my complete ACL got torn. Went to two doctors. Two doctors said, Diana, you do need to get surgery. But I'm here, maybe 17 years old, 16 years old, and I'm like, I'm not gonna get surgery. So I decided to stop playing soccer. So I did have to give up a passion. But I always say that door closed on me because something else was gonna be bigger. That, to me, was music. So that little picture there, it's my chorus friends. I also love to sing. It's one of my other passions. And I'm like, I don't wanna be a singer, but I definitely express my emotions through music. And I know a lot of us can definitely relate to that. May not be singing, but it could be listening, right? Music has very, very strong influence in me that got me through all of my emotions during high school. So chorus actually gave me a full ride to college. I did not have to pay anything thanks to this elective that I did decided to take during high school. So my journey, I thought it was going to be soccer. No, that was completely gone, but I had music still. With that, I always took advantage of the AP classes. That is something that we did not have growing up in Puerto Rico. AP classes, you're literally taking college classes in high school and you do not have to pay for it. That's credits that you're literally saving. So this is something that I did. I did AP chemistry, I did AP psychology, and the reasons why I took this was, again, to help my parents financially. If I would have to stay here in the United States to go to college, I knew it was gonna be a lot. My parents did not plan for me to go to college. I did not have a college fund. So what was gonna do? I would have to just take loans, right? Or get the scholarships that I did. And I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about that. But please, short story in terms of high school, challenges. Challenges will come to you. That does not mean that door is fully closed. There's always gonna be a silver lining at the end. We just sometimes have to pivot and go a different route. But that actually took me to college. Undergraduates, I got to go back to the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. I actually went to the University of Puerto Rico at Mayagüez, full ride thanks to music. I actually was part of the chamber choir. They actually went and traveled around the world. Yes, I went twice to Europe thanks to that, all paid thanks to the college. And that paid for my entire degree. So I did decide to do a bachelor's degree in chemistry. And what I forgot to mention earlier is that during high school, I've met Dr. Peters. Dr. Peters was my chemistry teacher. And I truly fell in love on how you could truly make something new out of two new ingredients. I really love and enjoy that science aspect, in particularly the lab. That was what I was in love with. So I decided to do chemistry versus just biology, right? So I did chemistry, did 5 years, took a little bit of an extra year because I definitely wanted to take that final choir competition, got some awards there, and also did summer internships. So during college, there's opportunities for you guys to do like a camp, right, during summer. And I did travel to Indiana, Purdue University, go Boilers. I don't know if anyone is from there. But I was able to apply those science concepts in an internship. I also did an internship in Puerto Rico with the water system. So how to treat the water to go to our households to ensure that it's safe for us to drink, right? The potable water. So that was something that I was able to give back to my community, right? So I did that through college. Now, I remember I had a calculus exam, let's say tomorrow, and I get a call. Something I forgot to mention, I'm alone in Puerto Rico. My parents are still here in Florida. I get a call saying, Diana, your dad is in the hospital. I have an exam the next day. I need to pass this exam. What happened? My dad unfortunately had a stroke. Why? I'm questioning why. Why my dad? My dad did not know the importance of taking his prescribed medication on time. He went a whole week without taking his blood pressure medications. A whole week. On top of that, Hispanic diet, not the best. We love fried foods. His cholesterol, off the roof. So by not taking his prescribed medications for a whole week, his blood pressure went up. A clot went to his brain and clogged the actual artery. And that caused him to have a stroke. That, literally, that moment, that's when I decided I'm gonna become a pharmacist. Why? Because there was a gap in knowledge, a gap that a provider diagnosed him with high blood pressure, but that provider took the time to actually explain why they need to take this medication. Next slide, please. That took me to my graduate school, University of Florida, go Gators. I was able to actually go to school here in Orlando. They do have a pharmacy school in Lake Nona campus. So because of what happened to my dad, that led me to this journey. And what I definitely want to say is through all of these years, you're like, Diana, come on, you already did 5 years. Now you're going to do 4 more? Yes, because I wanted to make a difference in my community. I wanted to ensure that my patients, the patients I'm talking to, they do not go through what my dad had, because not only was the sequelae, my dad thankfully was able to recover. He's not recover 100%. It made him more emotional though, which I love, because my dad was never a hugger. Now he's a hugger and he's a crier, right? So there's always a positive thing that came out of this, but the most importantly, it led to my passion and my journey. So UF College of Pharmacy did 4 years here in Lake Nona. I actually got to do a lot of community service. It's something that I truly love a ton. It gets me to connect with people. And you know, we tend to think, oh, I get to connect with someone, I'm able to impact their life, but it's the total way around, right? They actually teach us so much more. So I was able to go to South America, to Ecuador, as well as Peru, to bring mobile clinics to our villages that do not have access to hospital or doctors. We actually went with the University of Central Florida College of Medicine. A lot of providers took their time on their breaks to go into these mission trips. So it was definitely something rewarding to do. So if you like to give back to the community, maybe not here, but also overseas, you are able to also do that. And I was able to bring over-the-counter medications. All of those medications were actually donated, and we were able to treat, even perform surgeries on, again, people that do not have access to a hospital. They have to drive more than 6 hours to get to one. It was very secluded area, okay? Then a little bit in terms of postgraduate year, I did my 4 years. I decided I want to learn more. I was not ready to go into the work fields yet. So I decided to do a PGY1 or postgraduate year that is called a residency. So a little bit different than medical school. Medical school, you have to do multiple years of this, but I also wanted to work. I'm like, I need to work. So I did my PGY1 in the Orlando VA, and I have been blessed to stay there since. So it's almost 5 years now this month that I've been with the VA. So I started as a graduate, right, as a PGY1. After that, stayed as a clinical pharmacist in primary care. Remember, that's where I wanted to do. I wanted to manage those blood pressure patients, right, and educate. And I'll talk a little bit more about what we do in my role. Next slide, please. So what are the prerequisites? So I want to kind of like go back a little bit and see what I had to take during my college studies in order to get to pharmacy school, because everything looked like very easygoing, but I had to modify some of the classes that I took. So very important, if you do like your sciences, definitely high school is your baseline, guys. You definitely need to master the maths and the actual sciences, right? That you do guys take now in high school. It's very, very important because this is, again, creating those blocks for you to be successful in graduate school, okay? Undergraduate prerequisites, you do not need to actually finish with a bachelor's. You can actually do 2 years and go straight to pharmacy school. I wish I knew that. I would have been, oh my gosh, so young, right? I would have removed 3 years of that experience and go straight to graduate school. And I actually included those classes, but mainly biologies, you know, anatomy and physiology, your chemistry, your calculus, those will be the baseline. Minimum GPA does count for graduate school, 2.5 to 3, that's the bare minimum. Remember, these schools continue to get a little bit more competitive. So it's very important, you know, to be apply and do your best in school. C's do get degrees. I did unfortunately get some C's during my calculus. So I thought I was good, but it's okay. I still got in, okay? And PCAT exam is less common, but that's similar to the entry exam for med school. We do have some for pharmacy. However, most of our schools are not requiring this anymore. So very important, focus on that GPA and your extracurriculars. Next slide, please. Now, by a show of hands, and I hope nobody of you actually raises it, but do you guys think pharmacists just count pills? I saw some movement there. I hope if you do feel like we only count pills that were only behind a counter, you're actually incorrect. And by the end of this presentation, I hope you guys have a little bit more knowledge of what we are able to do. Next slide, please. A little bit in terms of evolution of pharmacy. So imagine all of our ancestors. Did we have pharma? We didn't have industries, right? So what did our ancestor do? Mortar and pestle. And they actually went into the woods, gathered some herbs, put it in a mortar or pestle. Back then, probably a rock, and then they did their own medicine, guys. Medicine comes from our roots. It comes from our land. So roots, leaves, flowers, all of that, that's the start of medicine. That's the start of pharmacy. Back in 1821, the first U.S. pharmacy college was founded. Back then, pharmacists only had to have an associate's degree. Right now, they transitioned that to a doctorate's degree. 1960s to 70s, clinical pharmacy movement. So we started to see more in comparison of the clinical part, right? Pharmacists being able to change medications. Pharmacists being able to order labs. The only thing we cannot do is diagnose. But my dad can come to me and say, Diana, my blood pressures are uncontrolled. What should I do? We are the drug experts, right? So I am able to tell my dad, talk to your physician, but this should be the thing you should be able to do. Adjust the medication. 2000, PharmD becomes standard degree. Today, we provide direct patient care, and we are known as providers in some states. Great thing, in the federal government, at the VA, the Veterans Affairs, we are known as practitioners. So I'm able to make those adjustments for my patients. Next slide. Now, I mentioned this before, we are medical experts. We prepare, we dispense, we educate, and we monitor for those medications changes. We work directly with patients. This could be inpatient setting at a hospital. It could be outpatient in your community. It can be a mix of both, right? So a doctor comes in, diagnoses you with a disease. They prescribe you a medication. You come to the outpatient pharmacy. and grab the medication. At that moment, if you do have questions about your medications, you are able to ask for a pharmacy consultation. And the pharmacist should be able to educate you on how to use this. During my graduate school, I used to work at CVS Pharmacy in Kissimmee. Comes through my driveway window, a patient, excuse me. I was just diagnosed with diabetes. The patient did not know how to inject insulin. So when I asked, have you previously used insulin? Have you injected insulin before? The answer was no. So what did I do? I took my time. I had him come to the actual window and we educated him appropriately on how to inject his insulin, his medications. What did we prevent? We could have prevented him, unfortunately, not injecting well and going back to the hospital with blood sugars all over the roof and having more complications. This is the impact we have outpatient. Now, a little bit in terms of my job, I do not dispense the medication. The actual provider refers that patient to me and say, Diana, this patient just got diagnosed with diabetes. I started him on insulin. Can you see him 2 weeks from now so you're able to adjust the insulin based on the home blood sugars? And I do that. I do the continuous follow-up month by month, and then by the time they're back to their primary care doctor visit, their blood sugars are controlled. Okay? Now, we work interprofessionally, partnership with doctors and nurses. It is a teamwork. If I identify one of my patients cannot eat well, and when I say eat well, eat more veggies, and they're only solely buying foods that are rich in carbohydrates, bread, frozen meals, that affects directly their blood sugars. So as a provider, yes, I can say you need to eat more veggies, but what if my patient cannot afford to get veggies because of the cost? I am able to link them into care with a social worker. We work together as a team. We work with nurses, we work with the actual doctors, right? The primary care providers. We work with whole health. We try to engage them into nutrition service. So again, it's a team and it's mainly for our patients' sake, right? We want them to be as healthy as possible. We prevent medication errors. Dose verifications, our providers enter medications. Sometimes these medications need to be what? Adjusted based on how your kidneys are functioning, adjusted based on weight. And we see errors. We see errors that can literally kill a patient. So we are a safeguard. We are able to adjust that, and particularly in our hospital. You get admitted. They enter an actual dose of an IV medication. Sometimes these need to be weighed. We are able to do that. We do a lot of calculations, and particularly for our pediatrics population, we reduce polypharmacy. And that's a big word, Diana. What is polypharmacy? Some of my patients have these medication pill boxes filled to the top. This is an actual simple medication box. Maybe it can fit 5 meds if they're not too big. What about my patient that has multiple conditions, that is taking 20 plus medications? We need a bigger pill box. As a pharmacist, I am able to see what you're taking, what you're taking. Can we reduce the medications that they are on? It's not only just providing. Patients started experiencing, let's say, a rash. Did the provider ask, did you take a new medication that could have led to that rash? No, they just prescribe a cream, they prescribe another medication. So that's polypharmacy. You experience a symptom, provider continues to add more medications to treat the symptoms versus looking at the whole list. What am I able to cut off from here? We improve chronic disease states, like diabetes, we get it under control. Blood pressure, we get it under control. We, of course, provide vaccinations in the pharmacy, and we do optimize those medications. Next slide, please. A little bit in terms stem into action, right? Everything has a real world application. Biology. How does the drug affect your body? All of our bodies are not the same. You have administration. What happens to my elderly patient that cannot swallow well? We are able to adjust their medication. Am I able to break that tablet? Am I able to make it a formulation, right, like a drink? Or do I need to inject it, right, via the intravenous route? Administration. Distribution. How does the body distribute in your body? Does it go to where it truly needs to go? Metabolism. Some of us have gene deficiencies. We don't know about it. And that metabolism, before thinking, is that medication truly not working? It could be in our genes. There's deficiencies. We have some ultra metabolizers, meaning that the medication is going to stay less in the body. Maybe it could be that's why it's not as effective. And elimination. Some of those medications stay lingering in the body a little bit more, right? Or a little bit longer. Why? Because my kidneys may not be filtering well, and I'm not having a urine output as someone maybe earlier in their ages, right? Those are things that we need to take into consideration, and that's where biology actually takes place. Chemistry, how the medications are designed. Rapid, metabolized, slow metabolized. That's where pharma kicks in, right? And we have extended release medications. We have capsules, we have tablets. All of that affects how that medication is going to affect in our body. Math, dosing calculations. Technology, electronic health records, right? We have to keep everything standardized in our records, which I actually love versus having the paper charts back in the day. And critical thinking, solving patient cases, thinking outside of the box. Next slide. Why representation in healthcare matters. So I kind of like already spoke about my journey, spoke about a little bit in the background of the science, but this is actually something very important. Our representation matters. Patients feel safer and understood. Communication improves the outcomes. If you're not an English native speaker like me, I feel so much comfortable when someone at the end of the other desk speaks the same language. Because sometimes things can get lost into translation. I feel more empathy. Diverse teams make better decisions. I may be thinking one way, you guys may be thinking the other way. And that's where communication improves for the better of the patient. And most importantly, you can serve your community. So when I started as a clinical pharmacist in Kissimmee, a lot of my patients were Puerto Ricans, they're Hispanic. How can I tell a Hispanic person, reduce your rice, stop eating rice, because rice turns into sugar and it affects your blood sugars and we are gonna go ahead and give you more insulin. I cannot tell one of my patients to stop eating rice. I can say, are we able to reduce the portion of rice that you're eating? Instead of eating it during lunch and during dinner, are we able to cut down? Why? Because this is cultural. It is a cultural thing for us to have a plate of rice, you have your beans, now I'm getting hungry, you have your plantains, and then maybe a potato salad on the side, 3 carbs. It is something that we are born into, right? So it's just more of that education, and that's where your cultural background actually kicks in. Next slide. So I spoke a little bit about what I do in primary care, but we have other We have a ton of specialties in pharmacy. We have pharmacies that specialize in cardiology, endocrinology, oncology, pediatrics, infectious disease, critical care in your ICUs, ambulatory care, which is what I chose to do, rheumatology, pulmonology, compounding, and much more. So if you do have a passion for a specialty or for something in particularly, most likely there is a PGY2 or another year of specialization that you're able to focus on. Next slide, please. So where can you work? Most of us have encountered a pharmacist where? In the community, maybe Walgreens, CVS, Publix, right? But we have pharmacists in the hospitals. We have pharmacists in clinics. We have pharmacists at the Veterans Affairs, Department of Defense, community pharmacies, and industries. So there is a vast majority of places where you can just work. You do not have to be in the outpatient if you don't like outpatient. You can focus in inpatient and not have to talk to patients. You're able to do that too, right? So there's always something that will fall within your interest. Next slide. Overcoming barriers. There are multiple scholarships and financial aids that are available. I actually myself got 2 scholarships through my college or postgraduate degree at the University of Florida. That did help a lot with the financial part of going to school. And something to know, which I did not know, is that UF provides 3 years full ride to a pharmacy student that has the most highest GPA. If I wish I knew that, I would most likely put a little bit more effort into my schooling. And actually, one of my colleagues did get that. She works at the Veterans Affairs. She didn't have to pay for 3 years. That's amazing, right? There's mentorships and pipeline programs, and there's shadowing and volunteers opportunities. Something that I definitely want to bring in terms of the mentorship is throughout your life, you're gonna meet a lot of people. Those people can be influential, some may not. Most likely, most of them will not. But there's gonna take one person to fully have your back and support you through the entire journey. So be open and always have your eyes on someone that is truly supporting you, because those may be the mentors that will continue to open doors for you. Next slide. Overcoming barriers. I did wanted to look into some opportunities in terms of pages, right, that do have opportunities for all of you. Our school guidance counselors are definitely a great resource for local programs. There's Aspire, National STEM Mentorship Program. If it's something that you're interested, this is already starting to build your portfolio for a better application. Again, the competition is definitely a little bit high, but it's always good to kind of like take into mind. There's pharmacy summer camps and academies. For example, the UF College of Pharmacy Summer Institute, they do take some volunteers during the summer if you're interested. Next slide. Leadership in action and creating your impact. So we lead healthcare teams as clinical pharmacists. We are the drug experts. So a lot of our providers come to us for medical advice. We teach students and residents. That is actually one of my current jobs right now. I am leading the residency program. So it's definitely something very important for me to continue to make that pathway and contribute back to the institution that gave me so much as a resident. We improve healthcare system. We advocate for the health of our patients, and we shape the future of medicines. Without pharmacists, there's no medications, guys. So that is very important. Next slide. Now, is this career right for you? In high school, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't know I was gonna become a clinical pharmacist. I just fell in love with science. I wanted to do more of the lab work, and that's what took me to chemistry. But it wasn't into that instance of my dad, right, that it took me into this career. So things for you to consider. Do you love science? Do you want to help people? Are you interested in leadership? Do you want financial stability? And do you want to impact your community? These are items, or these are statements that, looking back, if I knew clinical pharmacists were able to do all of this, I would have already knew I was going to make this out of my career. Next slide. You belong in STEM. Healthcare needs diverse voices. As I look at all of you, there's diversity in this room. We need people from different backgrounds. We need people like you in the healthcare system that truly, truly, truly wants to make an impact and a difference. Your background is always going to be a strength. Representation improves patient trust and outcomes. And I want to leave with this. The future of healthcare needs you. Whether you decide to become a pharmacist or not, whether you want to go into the medical field, maybe that's not your path, and that's totally fine. But whichever path you decide to go on and go with, make the difference.